Hello students, welcome back. This is a discussion of the questions of chapter 1. You will find these questions in your booklet. Okay, so will be a discussion. It's not the answers, it's just an idea to give you how to answer these questions. Question number 1. I never knew my father. His eyes had closed upon this world 6 months before mine opened on it. Explain. So this is, if you read this sentence, you will remember that this is what David told us in the beginning of the story, that before he came to this world, his father had already died, and he died before David was born by 6 months. So David was born fatherless. You can imagine that at this time, being a fatherless child, this was a disaster, or this was a problem, because the single mother has to face many challenges, like raising her son alone with no money, and she has to send him to school, she has to care for him. So this was very difficult at this time. So David meant that he was born fatherless, and that his father died before he was born by 6 months. Question number 2. How was David's mother condition before he was born, and why? Who came to see her? Did David's mother like that person, and why? Was she a usual guest at their house? Prove your answer. So in this part we are going to talk about how his mother felt before David was born. His mother's name was Clara, if you remember. So Clara was worried about herself and about giving birth to a fatherless child, and she didn't know how she would take care of him, because she was still young, and there is no one to support her or to help her raising a child. Who came to visit her? You remember Miss Trotwood, or Miss Betsy? She was David's great aunt, and she was the only rich person in their family. Clara was afraid of her, and she didn't talk to her at all. Why is that? Because Miss Trotwood didn't like when David's father married Clara, because Miss Trotwood thought that Clara was too young to marry David's father, because David's father was double Clara's age. Okay. How did she behave strangely, or what is our proof? When Miss Trotwood came to visit them, she behaved strangely in the day. She came to visit Clara. She didn't ring the door. You remember, she didn't ring the door, but she looked through the window. She peeked through the window. And when Clara saw her, she hid behind the chair. But then Miss Trotwood signaled her to open the door. Question number 3. What was Miss Trotwood's expectation about the coming child? What did Miss Trotwood want the child to be? And what were her intentions, what she wanted to do? What did she order Miss Copperfield to name the child? She wanted Clara to name the child a certain name. What was that? And what was her reaction when David was born? So, if we remember this part, Miss Trotwood wanted Clara to give birth to a girl. She wanted to be the girl's friend and her godmother. She even asked Clara, or ordered Clara, to name the girl Betsy Trotwood Copperfield. She wanted to give her, the child or the baby, her own name. Okay? All of this shows us that Miss Trotwood was a controlling person. She wanted to control the baby. She wanted to have authority over the baby. But the most important thing, that she wanted the baby to be a girl, not a boy. So when the doctor came and delivered the news to Miss Trotwood that Clara gave birth to a boy and not a girl, as she hoped, Miss Trotwood didn't say a word, and she took her hat and she hid the doctor. Then she left the house and never came back. Remember these things, or remember these details when you write your answers. Okay? At one point, she thought Miss Betsy had gently touched her hair, but so he's asking you to comment on the following paragraph explaining what didn't reflect about Miss Betsy's character. Okay, anyone who in the previous question when we talked about Miss Betsy, anyone would think that Miss Betsy is a cruel character, a bad character. She wants to control everything. She hates Clara. She doesn't like Clara, and she didn't accept that she was marrying David's father because he was double her age. You would think that Miss Betsy is an awful character, but she was quite the opposite. If you remember, Miss Trotwood was so kind that she touched Clara's hair when Clara was crying that she is going to give birth to a fatherless child. Miss Trotwood wanted to help her, or wanted to ease the situation for her. She touched Clara's hair gently when Clara was crying, but when Clara raised her head, Miss Trotwood put her hands on her knees suddenly. Why? Because she was a kind person, but she didn't want to show anyone her real character. Miss Trotwood was not a bad person. She was kind, but she didn't like others to see that side of her. Miss Betsy has an unusual way of behaving toward people. Explain. So this is the same explanation as the question before. You will say that she was kind, but she didn't want anyone to know that about her, and she dealt in a way that people might think that she is a bad person or a controlling person, but instead she was quite kind, and she wanted to help Clara with the child, and she hoped that if the child was a girl, she would give her care, she would give her attention, she would give her own name. She wanted to do a lot of stuff for the girl if she was for the baby if she was a girl, but unfortunately Clara gave birth to a boy, not a girl. What is the beginning of David Copperfield according to the story pyramid? Okay, here David starts his story with a sad news or a bad news. He's starting his story telling us the hardship of his mother and the news about his father. He's telling us that his father died before he was born by 6 months. He's telling us that his mother is feeling depressed and is feeling worried and confused because she is giving birth to a fatherless child at this time. So David, beginning of the story, or his beginning of the story is telling us the ending, or telling us how his father died and how Clara feels before he was born. Thank you for listening, and try to use our discussion to write your answers, and I'll correct them after you give them to me. Thank you very much. Hello students.